Yeah, so super excited. We launched Kinective Media out of Cannes, and phenomenal launch, great awareness. So the context of what this is all about is personalization. Personalization for all our customers. We flew 163 million people in 2023. We've got in excess of 110 million unique IDs. And there's a subset of that, we've got in excess of 40 million MileagePlus active members. So the sort of cohort of scale is phenomenal. Then you look at the quality of data. Scale's good, but you've got to have quality. These are real people who fly in real planes. They have to check in, so the match testing we've done is just phenomenal. It's like in the sort of very high 90s, so it's pretty much a perfect match. And then lastly, and I think we'll come on to talk about differentiation, but we have a sort of a sequential opportunity to talk to those people across screens. So pre, during, and post the travel journey. So if you think about when people are searching for flights on .com or even on their app, day of travel, there's obviously a lot of interaction when you're checked in on your app. When the plane's going to go, gate information, all that kind of stuff. So there's opportunities again to engage within the lounges. At the gate, we have gate information displays. They're going to become now opportunities to speak to consumers from third-party advertisers, and then clearly in flight, the dwell time is in excess of 3.5 hours on average. So that's phenomenal, and it's a very, very addressable screen. We understand who sits there. And then post that journey, again, you're probably likely to look at your app in terms of where you pick up your bags from, and then even off-platform at home or on the fly. So it's an omni-channel screen in terms of how we can sort of touch our customers across all those channels.
Well, yeah, I'm a big fan of your app as far as coming up with ideas or searching. So I imagine in my searches, I telegraph to you my intent, and that must be useful to advertisers, to certain kinds of tourist boards, or maybe you could tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so clearly, obviously, we know where people are flying to and from. So there's a whole bunch of use cases, and even some of our launch partners. And we've been working with Ticketmaster and Live Nation as a for instance, and that actually the catalyst came from the Taylor Swift moment last year, when we saw a real spike in airline tickets, and we kind of just thought about the opportunity that people travel for events, or they're just traveling to a destination and they may want to see an event. We did one of our launch partners was those guys where we had in-flight just display ads. And we had live feeds, so if you're flying from New York to Las Vegas, live feeds in terms of seat availability at any of the Ticketmaster events. And we saw a number of sort of ticket sales on the flight from that. We are speaking to all the DMOs and the tourist boards again. There's opportunities we're thinking about in terms of our roadmap about the interactive map and how we can make that more of a content play for tourist boards. So I think what we're discovering, and even here at Beet Retreat, talking to various people ask the questions, could you do this? Have you thought about that? And I think the opportunities are just so open because of that, high engagement with our customer base. So it's pretty phenomenal.
Well, as you're well aware, there's just been an explosion in terms of the number of retail media networks. I imagine in some ways you have the advantage of being a late mover, and that you can build upon what's come before you. But maybe you could just tell us a bit more about how you differentiate Kinective Media from these other retail media networks.
Yeah, I'll give you two answers to that, and we had an interesting debate this morning. I think for the sake of the industry, I want to talk about commerce, because we love a label in this industry. And I think it's important to have this kind of macro umbrella about commerce, which covers, yes, retail, financial services are in this sector. We've now got sort of rideshare, hotel groups, airlines. So I think we should just take a level up. I think that was my sort of drumbeat this morning. However, within that, I think for us, you clearly have to have a platform of scale. So we definitely check that box. But I think interestingly, what we have, because I mentioned earlier the opportunity to talk to customers across that journey and different screens, so we can tap into performance-based spend as well as video brand-based spend, and we've done that. And some of our major launch partners whether it's sort of premium brands such as Macallan or Bottega Veneta. We've got Televisa, Univision in terms of kind of content and streaming. They're just good examples where we're expanding, not just in the kind of performance end, where retail currently is, and it's in CPG, where we've expanded it across multiple verticals. Because ultimately, and I think, again, strategically for the industry, it's just audiences. And if you can, you have the breadth and depth of data, but I think it's just because it's audiences, you can play, and certainly we're playing in different verticals, not just CPG. So that's, I think, the start of where we differentiate against retail. But ultimately, I don't think this is about for and against. I think we need to play together, because I think there is a 1 + 1 = 5, not just 3, across the whole cohort.
Well, yeah, you mentioned how you're able to generate transactions, lower funnel kind of stuff. But I'd imagine there's also opportunities in the upper funnel, as it were, with awareness campaigns. Yep. So it doesn't just have to be tourist boards or travel oriented. It can be car makers or other kinds of categories.
Yeah, and as I say, some of those examples with very premium brands in luxury, like Bottega Veneta, pure brand activity. So we're seeing, certainly in the in-flight and also in the lounges where we have screens. We have 1 million people a month go into our lounges across the US. These are great opportunities to do kind of brand, and people check into those. We scan their cards in, so we know exactly who's in those lounges, and obviously clearly we know who's sitting in the seat. So that's, I think, where we can play on the brand side as well as the performance.
Well, this has been really informative, Richard. I'd like to thank you again for sharing your time and expertise with us. Looking ahead, what is the future, or next year, 2025? What does it look like for Kinective Media?
We've got a fairly in-depth roadmap. I think the world, today. We're definitely sort of working directly with brands and agencies. We're working with Magnite in terms of the back end, and also Google. Next year, we want to engage more on the programmatic side. Now that we've stood up the core functionality and capabilities, programmatic becomes really, really important. So that's point one. I think point two, there are just a whole bunch of other opportunities that we're looking at. We have an app called MileagePlus X. We've now integrated that into our United app. That becomes a marketplace where even if you fly with us once a year, you may have accumulated some miles. But what does that mean in terms of daily ubiquity and utility? So things like buying a Starbucks coffee with miles. It's an everyday thing. So we've already created that marketplace in terms of shopping, dining, and just daily events. And that goes beyond the travel engagement with United. So that's a big play in terms of creating a marketplace there. So a lot of exciting stuff, and I think we're just scratching the surface. So more to come.